So based on the moves this offseason, it seems like the Panthers are going to be fully committed to being a running team. They've brought back the whole offensive line, and they signed a running back too in free agency. They did not sign any receivers. They did not sign any tight ends or any other weapons. So if it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, it quacks, it's probably a duck, because even with Bryce Young emerging down the stretch, playing better football, the Panthers, the passing game was still about league average even during the stretch when you back out that first half of the year. But the running game was top 10 in most categories. So it seems like we're going to continue to lean on that running game here going forward. And that's just going to be the identity of the team. It's going to help control the clock, wear down the opposition, keep the defense off the field ideally. And we know that when it gets cold later in the year, that running game can really show up and be a factor. So it makes sense. But the Carolina Panthers have conducted 30 visits with running backs this offseason, and it may come as a surprise because they just spent a second-round pick on Jonathan Brooks last year. They also signed Rico Dowdle, a 1,000-yard back with the Cowboys this offseason as well to be the running back too. Not to mention, they just gave an extension to Chuba Hubbard during the season in 2024. So they've loaded up in the backfield, but they're still not resting on their laurels. But this class coming out of the draft is pegged to be one of the deepest ones of all time. Experts are saying they have at least 30 draftable running back grades. So guys that have graded as a prospect good enough to be selected. Will they be selected? We'll see. But that means you're going to be able to find some gems, and it happens every year. Look no further than last year with the Tampa Bay Bucks finding Bucky Irvin on day 3, or the Giants finding Tyrone Tracy on day 3 as well. Both guys ended up being very, very valuable pieces down the stretch. Hell, Bucky Irvin is looking like our RB1 out of this class thus far. We'll see what happens as things move forward, but Bucky Irvin, I wrote him off because of the lack of size, but he was super productive for the Tampa Bay Bucks. He gave the Panthers hell every time he played them, so we can attest to that firsthand as fans. But to me, it's worth taking a swing on a running back when the class is this deep, just because even though you've paid Chuba Hubbard, nobody else is a long-term answer. Rico Dowdle's only on a 1-year deal. Jonathan Brooks, he'll be out for 2025. Expect him back maybe for 2026, but we don't know what condition he'll be in. Even with that, we want to protect the investment of the money that we put in Chuba Hubbard. Let's not go down the road that we did with Christian McCaffrey, where we paid him all that money. It felt like we had to milk him because we gave him all that money. Ended up running him into the dirt. Didn't get anything for him when we traded him out. He ended up going to greener pastures. And I'm still bitter about that to this day. So let's do it right this time. Chuba's here. Let's go ahead and get some guys in here that can take the load off of him and help keep him fresh. You never know. You may end up finding your own Bucky Irvin, who ends up being a budding star in the league. But in this video, we're going to look at what exactly the Panthers are looking for in these guys that they've met. Well, let's try to do some traits and look at the numbers and some consistencies to see what they're looking for. We did a video with the edge rushers previously, so if you missed that, go check that out, where we kind of geek out over the draft and figure out what patterns and consistencies we can look at from this regime and what exactly they're trying to find for their philosophy, because every team has their principles and things that they want to look for in each position that they think can be successful for the team. Right or wrong, that's just the way that it is. So I want to dive into those numbers. But real quick, my name is Aaron Duncan with the Necessary Point Sports Talk. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Panthers in-depth content. I promise you're not going to get the depth of content anywhere else on the internet in terms of the Panthers than here. I feel comfortable saying that, no, respectfully, but make sure you are subscribed so you stay up to date on that stuff if you want to get into these numbers, man, and find out more about what is exactly going on behind closed doors and what they're looking for. Dave Canales recently sat down for an interview, and he had this to say about his running back, quote unquote, type. Our philosophy of running backs is you take the best runner. So I'm not looking for a style. I'm not looking for a compliment. I'm looking for the best runner available wherever we decide to take that running back. Who is that person? And then if you start with a good runner, what ends up happening a lot of times is a guy busts his shoelace so the other guy's in. And if you always have a good runner, you're never pigeonholed like, oh, this guy is more of a receiving type back, or this guy is more of a this or that. And that came from Pete. That came from Tom Cable in my years in Seattle. Just pick the best runner, and if they have other cool attributes, we'll incorporate that into the offense. So Dave Canales says that, hey, when you have a running back by committee, I want to see a guy with a different skill set. If we have a bruiser, you want to get you a dasher that's fast. Like, we had a smash and dash that we had where one guy was power, one guy was a little bit faster. We had the thunder and lightning. We've heard these kind of running back combos over the day where you get guys with contrasting skills. It's like a change of pace. But Dave Canales wants the same type of guy. He's like, hey, let's just get guys that can run and we'll figure things out from there. Because in my opinion, Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard are the epitome of that. They are very, very similar backs. Not really home run guys. They do break tackles. Very, very north-south. Put that foot in the ground and get upfield and be able to get yards after contact. But let's look at some of the traits that they look for between those two, but also how it connects to the other running backs. What I pulled out for some common traits is the weight. 200 pounds. We don't have any small undersized backs. Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard, and Jonathan Brooks all well over 210 pounds. Like I said, at least 200. Yards after contact. I saw the at least 66th percentile for some of the running backs that look for, and that we'll look at the prospects that are coming out. But this is what I saw from the ability to get yards after contact. And if you look at Chuba Hubbard, he's 8th in the NFL in yards after contact this past year. Rico Dowdle was 15th in the NFL in yards after contact. And when Jonathan Brooks came out his final year at Texas, he was in the 93rd percentile of yards after contact. And also that kind of leans into the last point of explosiveness in the lower body. We saw this thing, same thing with the edge rushers that want 10-foot broad jump or 120 inches. Look at Chuba Hubbard, 120 inch on the money broad jump. Rico Dowdle, 127 in the broad jump. And of course, Jonathan Brooks was injured during the pre-draft process, so he did not do that broad jump. But having that broad jump, standing from a stale position and just jumping, that is kind of an indicator of not just like jumping vertically, but more of in the hips and the butt and the thighs, just showing that leg drive, that ability to run hard, keep them knees pumping, break tackles, run through contact. That is a good indicator of that type of power that you have in the lower body. So it makes sense that these guys have these consistencies. Now, of course, all these guys came from different backgrounds. The only guy that was handpicked on this list was Jonathan Brooks, but I don't think it's a coincidence that these other guys fit the same traits. Of course, they didn't look at Rico Dowdle and be like, oh, yeah, we want him to come in free agency because he had a 127 broad jump coming out of college. No, they didn't do that. But I just think that it's not a coincidence that they have these similar traits. It just makes sense that they check these boxes. And I saw these same patterns from the guys coming out of the draft. Okay, so let's take a look at the big board for the prospects this year coming out. And I have them all here. I have put a round grade beside every back that they've met with, whether it's a 30 visit or a combine visit or a bowl game, all-star game visit, and just try to identify some, because they haven't met with a ton of guys, but they have enough for me to kind of put some things together. So I'll look at all these guys here and I'll filter it by the guys that they've actually met with, and let's see if we can find some common traits. I'll get rid of the blanks here. Boom. And so you got Travion Henderson, RJ Harvey, Cameron Scatterboo, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Ollie Gordon II, and Jarquez Hunter. Now, of course, look at the weight column. All over 200 pounds. Look, the lightest one on here is Travion Henderson at 202. And of course, you got Jarquez Hunter from Auburn, who's at 204 as well. Look at the broad jump. Everybody's over 10 feet. I mean, Travion Henderson didn't do it, but you can see Travion Henderson is over 10 feet in the broad jump, man. And everybody else well over. RJ Harvey, 10.7, 10.3, 10.04, 10 feet. But look, let's run back. Even at height, even though they're all varying heights, everybody's over 200 pounds. We got from 5'8" all the way to 6'1" and 3/8, but everybody's over 200 pounds. It's about that bulk and being able to run with that explosive ability with that broad jump. But looking at yards after contact, I want to put this in perspective with everybody in the class. So I'm going to take this filter off. Okay. And then I'm going to filter this by who has the highest yards after contact per attempt. And if we zoom out, we're just going to get a good feel for it. You'll see that most of these guys that they're looking at that are in the green are in the upper half of the class. Everybody's what, top 12? And there's what? How many? 33 running backs, so the top third of the class in terms of yards after contact per attempt. And let's look at missed tackles forced per attempt as well, because that's a good indicator of yards after contact. Similar, most of the guys are at the top of this class in terms of missed tackles forced per attempt, and even explosive rate, because explosive rate is those 10-15 yard runs. Look at this. We got four guys in the top four that have been looking at for the Panthers, because, okay, that's similar to what Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard do. They get those 10, 15 yard runs. They don't hit the home runs, but they constantly gas you with those runs, and they're like body blows when you continue to stay on schedule and move the chain. So look, we found some common denominators, of course, for these guys here, and it just makes sense. And I like a lot of these names here, but I want to talk about my favorite of the class. One of my favorite guys that I had on that list is going to be RJ Harvey. Now, RJ Harvey is super productive coming out of the Big 12. I guess they're in, the UCF is in now, but this guy is short and compact, giving me Bucky Irvin vibes. Last year, I wrote off Bucky Irvin because he was too small and the lack of athleticism. If you're small and you're an athlete, I'm like, cool, we can live with that. But he wasn't the best athlete, and he was undersized, so I kind of wrote him off. No more writing off small backs anymore. I'm trusting the tape, and the tape for RJ Harvey is excellent. Strengths: explosive lateral ability. He's able to jump cut and cover a lot of ground, able to use that to navigate in the zone and find holes and get north and south. The wiggle. This guy's able to make guys miss as well. That's why his missed tackles force rate is pretty high as well. He's able to get a lot of yards after contact. And he has pass game upside. That quickness, he's able to use it and use that burst and acceleration as well out of the backfield to catch checkdowns and stuff and make guys miss, because he's not an easy guy to tackle. Even though he's smaller, he is very slippery in the open field. But let's look at his weaknesses. Below average power, which makes sense. He's 5'8", 205. He's not moving the pile that much, and he just doesn't really get behind his pads and run with force. This guy's a former quarterback, so maybe I expect him to continue to get better at this as he gets more reps and learns to get behind those shoulder pads and drive the legs, because he's a great athlete. He ran a 4.4, 157, a 10-yard dash, 10.7 broad jump, and 38 invert. So the lower body explosiveness is there, but he just needs to channel that into being able to try to move the pile. He may not ever be that good at that because he is still 5'8" regardless. But sometimes he can be too patient. Yes, he has those explosive lateral cuts, but he tries to Le'Veon Bell it at times in the backfield, and sometimes it can be a little bit too slow. In the NFL, you can't dance in the backfield and jump cut around. You have to really hit your hole, be decisive, and make things happen and get through the hole. So I want him to be able to not be run down from behind because he's taking too long. So he'll need to up that patience. And another weakness, of course, is the size. There's nothing he can do about this. I think at 205, he's very put together, very well, very thick in the lower body, solid upper body as well, and plenty of bulk to be able, I think, to handle as a running back by committee approach in the NFL. But I just think that the lack of size is going to be a problem for him in terms of pass protection, and of course when I talked about moving the pile. But in conclusion, man, they met with backs and that range from day 2 all the way to day 3. I mean, hell, Travion Henderson may be a day 1 running back. The fact that they met with him was just crazy to me, because I just can't see them using that high of draft capital on a running back after getting Jonathan Brooks. But you just never know. But I do expect them to take a swing at some point. I would expect maybe late day 2, early day 3. If you go early day 3, you're going to have pretty much your pick of your litter at the guys that we looked at, in my opinion. RJ Harvey would definitely be there. I was super happy to see him join there, because he has a level of quickness and agility that we don't have in the backfield currently. And I got obviously the passing game upside. I really like his style of running. But you guys let me know down below in the comments, what do you think about us drafting a running back? When do you think we should draft a running back? How early would you draft a running back, or would you draft a running back at all? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, because some of y'all just want to use all the picks on defense. You don't want to worry about anything else but defense, like we ain't spend $270 million in free agency. But I'm just messing with y'all. Let me know how you feel down below, all right? But if you're new, if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. I'm on that quest to 20K subscribers. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.